Welcome, my acolytes. I'm Graveseeker, and this is Karl, Jobst. The retro video game market has officially crashed. How did it crash? Let me explain. Or no, how did it crash? Of course, it crashed. It was a scam all along. Because the short way, by the way, I'm gonna link his video with it. I'm not gonna react to it for it. Karl did a really nice video about the video game industry, how they push buying prices for video games without any repercussion. That's basically actually legal. They sell things to them, buy them themselves, they sell it, they buy it themselves for an inflated price, and then try to actually sell it for some stupid schmuck that actually pays for it. And they went really high. We're gonna hear how high it was, but this is Karl's, let's say, victory lap video where he's pretty happy why it happened, why the things happened that happened. And by the way, if you like my video, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, notifications, and watch at my live stream if I have a live stream. You know the gist. And of course, love Karl. Good. Now, let's start.
Hello, you absolute legends. In July of 2021, the video game world was shocked when a sealed copy of Super Mario 64 sold for $1.5 million, by far the most expensive video game ever sold. In the years prior, sealed video games had skyrocketed in price, increasing in value by 1,000% or more. This prompted me to look into the situation and find out what was happening. In August of 2021, I released a video calling out fraud and deception.
Yes. Watch this. I'm still going to include a link down there, and yes, he will, and he did a really good job
in the retro video game market. More specifically, I outlined in detail how the video game grading company, Wata Games, and the auction house Heritage Auctions colluded together to create an artificial speculative bubble in order to funnel money from the public and personally profit. The response to that video was amazing, with almost universal agreement for that video.
Oh yeah. And by the way, just for information, this guy actually pays those guys off to say what he wants to hear. I mean, it's paid acting, so yeah, it's some pawn shop. I don't remember how they're called. I mean, WordPress something. It's fine.
Funnel money from the public and personally profit. The response to that video was amazing, with almost universal agreement from the wider community that what was going on was not only morally wrong, but also likely illegal. I did receive some pushback, however, from a small percentage of people, and one of the things some people disagreed with is that I said there was indeed a speculative bubble. Some people were upset by this, and they claimed there wasn't a bubble and that video games really were worth this much money. It wasn't that there was a bubble, it was just that video games were previously undervalued and are now just catching up.
Yeah, those were, by the way, just the explanations of the people that actually believe in it. And NFTs, just saying, if you know, you know, if you don't. NFTs are bullshit. This was the same bullshit. It's just, I really don't know why people would spring up. And yes, look at this. Look at the video before he did this one.
Made my assessment, I looked at the speed at which prices increased. I looked at who was involved in creating the market. I looked at how much market manipulation there was, and I compared that to similar bubbles in the...
And by the way, he did an outstanding job doing that. After he actually did it, I was like, I want to inform myself. And he did just such a fine job in that video. I think it was one mistake with him, but I don't remember what it exactly was, but it's relatively irrelevant for the entire point
past, and I believed that the prices were way too high and were driven almost entirely by speculation. Well, both opinions can't be right. Someone had to be wrong. It's been 2 years since I made that video, and I think that's enough time to check in with the market and see where it's at. And as it turns out, I was completely correct. Since 2021, sealed video game prices have plummeted. Across the entire board, prices are down 50 to 90% and sometimes even more. Some people lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on a single game, and it wouldn't surprise me if some people lost millions in total. In today's video, we will take a look at some of the biggest losers. We will compare the price they bought the game at with the price they sold the game to see just how much money they lost.
And by the way, I deeply believe that there were just people who actually just... Those are a few cents for them.
And there will be no excuse here because almost all of these purchases were made well after my video came out. The information was available and yet people continued.
They scanned basically themselves. It's based the same basic thing as NFTs. Like, not the exactly same. NFTs are way more worthless than a old game, but I think you know what I mean. I think you guys know what I mean because it's just a scam that got pushed like a motherfucker, and it is what it is.
To buy. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, it's that time again when I tell you to look after yourself, and that's why today's video sponsor is Geology, who offer award-winning skin, hair, and code, and use code KarlJobst100. You will receive 100% off your personalized time. Every time I make a video like this, people like to cry and claim that I'm saying that video game collecting is a scam, or that video game grading is a scam. This is usually just an emotional reaction because it's not based on anything I've ever said. I love video game collecting, and I also buy graded video games. I want the world's population to love video games so much they become extremely valuable.
Yes, and by the way, acolytes, he definitively says as it is. Video game collecting in itself is not a scam. If you collect video games, that's fine. But there are some points where you just push the price like this motherfucker did. Just push it up. Push it up. Not naturally, but like unnaturally push it up without... It's basically scamming everyone all around.
This is because I want people to love the things I love. That's just human nature. What I despise is people who don't really care about video games, just using them to try and make money. They buy a game and try to sell it to someone else for a higher price. These people add nothing of value to society. They prey on the love and passion people have for gaming and use their wealth as a weapon to steal money from others. Speculation is the problem. Not collecting, not grading, not auction houses, just greed. The only way this practice stops is if people start losing money, which is why all of the following examples are great for collectors. So I don't have to keep repeating myself during the video, all of my comparisons will be for the same game, the same print, and the same grade in order to make the comparisons as relevant as possible. Oftentimes as well, even the same copy. Let's begin.
Damn. So they didn't even sell on a high point. Good.
With an absolute doozy. Madden NFL is a popular sports series that has been running for over 30 years, and its first installment came out in 1990 for the Sega Genesis. Often with popular franchises, the first game in the series is highly valued, and in January 2022, a copy sold for $480,000. Heritage Auctions really hyped this game up, even including a video explaining how rare and amazing it was.
Yep, this is the freaking face of a scammer. Remember.
1 year later, in January of 2023, a copy sold for $21,600, a 96% drop in value and a loss of almost $500,000 in 12 months. Tomb Raider is a classic, the franchise is very popular, and one of the few gaming IPs that transition.
And everybody can guess why.
And relatively successfully to the big screen. And it all started with the 1996 release on the PlayStation. In July 2021, a 9.4A copy sold for $144,000. 2 years later, a 9.4A++ copy, a copy that has an even better grade, sold for just under $5,000. A 97% drop, and a loss of $140,000. And this past weekend, a 9.4A+ copy sold for just $4,000. Resident Evil is another hugely popular franchise. The survival horror series includes some amazing games, and again, it's another gaming franchise that did fairly well after it made the transition into movies. Resident Evil started with the 1990.
I mean, I don't like the movies, but they did good in the box office, so what am I? Who am I to say?
6 release on the PlayStation. In October 2021, a copy of the original Resident Evil sold for $264,000. This was the long box variant, which is rarer and attracts a much higher price. Several days ago, on November 3rd, the same copy sold for $38,400, a loss of over $200,000. Now, when I say the same copy, I mean it's literally the same copy. This Resident Evil is from the Dreamer Collection, and we can also tell it's the same copy from the identifier on the back. But what's interesting is that it's even the exact same picture that was used in both auctions.
See, that's what you get. And I hope that the person that actually bought it regrets it.
Heritage Auctions always takes photos of the items they receive. So if it's the same photo, that means it never left Heritage Auctions. Someone bought this game for $264,000, kept it in the Heritage Vault for 2 years, and then sold it for $38,000. I assume they kept it at Heritage because they were hoping to flip it through a later auction for a profit. But boy, did that backfire. And this might not be the only game this person incurred a huge loss on.
And let's be honest here, nonetheless, it still worked to a certain degree. Like, I am sad to say, but to a certain degree, there still are people that actually bought it and sold it, and it's like legit people, not just like some freaking people that have way too much money on their end, but you know what I mean.
There were several other games that were also bought in the same auction on the 29th of October 2021 that went up for resale on November 3rd, and they were also the same copy and used the same picture. This almost certainly means they all belong to the same person. October 29, 2021,
okay, that's interesting. If they're both the same person. Interesting to know, but does it really matter at the end of the day? Well, you can double laugh at them. I think that's
Zelda 2 sold for $102,000. Same copy, same picture, sold on November 3rd for $14,400. October 29, 2021, a Russian Attack sold for $43,200. November 3, 2023, same copy, same picture, sold for $7,800. October 2021, a Twisted Metal sold for $87,000. November 2023, it sold for $17,000.
Oh, Twisted Metal, that was fun.
A Final Fantasy originally bought for $18,000, sold for $6,600. There could be more, but in just those 5 games, this person lost $430,000. And the amazing thing is they never even got to see the games they bought.
Nice.
Now to everyone's favorite game, Tecmo Bowl. Of all of the NFL games ever released, this was definitely one of them. In January 2022, a 9.4A Plus sold for $144,000. Just over a year later, in April 2023, a 9.6A Plus, a game in better condition, sold for less than $5,000. A drop in value of almost 97%. This next example isn't as much money, but just goes to show that even obscure titles were going for ridiculous prices. In July 2021, at the peak of the bubble, this Pokepark Wii went for $22,800. 2 years later, it sold for $600. That's a drop in value of 97.4%, likely the biggest percentage drop of any game sold on Heritage Auctions. We definitely need to show Sega some love, and what better way to do it than by looking at the original release of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis. In October 2021, a copy sold for $312,000. Just over a year later, in November 2022, a copy sold for $38,000, a loss of almost $300,000. And this sale was a year ago. Who knows how much lower this would sell for today? Here is an even crazier example though. In September 2021, a 9.4A sold for $420,000. This prompted the creator of Sonic, Yuji Naka, to ask if it was some kind of scam. In July of 2023, a slightly higher grade...
Yep. It is what it is, boys. It is what it is. Lads, akkurat.
Copy sold for $28,800, a loss of almost $400,000 and a 93% drop in value. Mario Kart 64 is obviously a classic and is definitely one of the more sought-after games on the Nintendo 64. In April 2022, a 9.6 A++ copy sold for $144,000. In November 2023, a 9.8 A++, a higher graded copy, sold for $36,000, a loss of well over $100,000. The original Smash Bros. Is another grail for the Nintendo 64. One sold in July 2021 for $144,000. Then, the exact same copy, and we know it's the same copy because of the barcode on the back, sold for $15,000 in January. Have to give a shout out to the original Zelda, definitely a grail for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This example is interesting because there were two sales, both for the exact same grade and for the exact same amount. A 9.6 A+ copy sold in October 2021, and another in January 2022, both for $156,000. And several days ago, one sold for just $14,000, a loss of more than 90% and $140,000 each. Ironically, the biggest total loss happened well before the bubble even burst. In July 2021, a 9.8 A++ Super Mario 64 sold for $1.5 million. Then, just a couple of months later, a copy sold for $800,000. Still a huge amount, but a loss of $700,000. It's hard to know exactly what a 9.8 A++ would sell for today, but we can use a different grade to estimate. On the same day as the record-breaking sale, an 8.5 A+ Super Mario 64 was sold for $31,400.
There's a question from Yonyu. Would you even buy that if you had the money? Would you buy that just to have it? Because I wouldn't. Like, it's a good game, but for FC I can get it way cheaper. Like, even if I had endless amounts of money and wouldn't give a fuck, I still wouldn't pay that price. I don't know, but maybe it's just me.
And several days ago, one sold for $3,360, a drop of around 90%. Seeing as this is in line with all of the other examples, a 9.8 A++ would probably sell for between $150,000 to $200,000, though of course it could even be lower. What's for sure though, is that the original buyer has almost certainly lost well over $1 million. A lot of people lost a lot of money, but the people that got in early, or the collectors who sold when the time was right, became rich overnight. Prices haven't completely gone down to where they were before the bubble, but I don't think they will. There are now multiple auction houses and multiple grading companies all still trying to build the market. What will be interesting to see though is the result of the What A Games class action lawsuit, which is still ongoing. We at least now know there was a bubble. What is yet to be determined is if anyone will be found responsible for its making. Thank you so much for watching, you legends.
Good. And as I see it, like, what a freaking money and time waste, isn't it? Like, this scam, don't get me wrong, the scam, freaking effective as fuck. Like, this was a really good scam, like, they got rich overnight, but... And I don't mean it in a positive way where I actually like those things. No, the scam worked to a certain degree. Of course, it crashed, but the victims of the crash already... the victims before they got it are already there, and it's really sad to see, but it is what it is. The real world just isn't that nice. But I don't feel as bad for the people that actually bought it, because it's the same as NFTs. Like, at some point you really have to decide if you really want to do it, because if you're going in this, you're not a shark in this giant sea. You're a freaking goldfish. And either you know your shit or you go down. And it is what it is. But as it is, my acolytes, good night.